of suicide bombing in Israel. Thousands of Israelis have been killed because of suicide bombings. Um, you know, so to say that Israel is, mistreating people and all that, I don't really agree with that. Because, for example, when my father was in Israel, they were, or in the West Bank, that is, there were so many Palestinians who moved into the Israeli areas and lived amongst Israelis, and there's still people that do it till this day. You can go to Tel Aviv and you can see Palestinians living there and residing there very happily, and they don't want to go back to the West Bank because Israel to them is much more of a civilized area to live in. So if
Well,
you think that,
if Israel wasn't cordoning off the West Bank, if they were letting them live, then there wouldn't be the conditions, living conditions. If they were allowed to have water and normal services, the living conditions wouldn't be that bad there, would they?
well, my dad also lives under that type of lifestyle
Your
where
dad
the
lived.
Israelis
Wait a minute. Your dad lived in Israel, or did he live in the West Bank?
he lived in the West Bank, and my father lived that lifestyle as well, where they have to turn off electricity and all of that. If the Palestinians would stop their acts of terrorism, if they would stop their racism toward Israelis, then Israel would probably have a different way of treating them. When the Israelis first came to Israel, for example, when they came from North Africa, when they came from Yemen, Russia, Poland, all these other lands, when they came into Israel, they didn't even do anything to the Palestinians. Matter of fact, there were Israelis that were hiring Palestinians to help them garden fruits and vegetables. So, and the Israelis simply began to build their own gated communities within Israel. What happened was that Palestinians were throwing rockets into their communities, and what that did was it started the Hagna and all these, and all of these militia groups to protect their own lives.
Now,
And
wait a minute. Now, let's. If you go back just a little bit more, the Stern Gang that Menachem Begin was a member of, they terrorized the Palestinians. They drove them out, and today the Palestinians are asking for the right of return to go back to the land that they were driven up by terrorist groups, that were Jewish, not Muslim. The Stern Gang
well, yeah,
and
I'm not,
the Der
yeah, I'm not
Yassin
gonna,
massacre would be come to mind.
yeah, I'm not gonna deny that they were bad acts done by Israelis in those times. I'm not gonna deny that. I'm not saying the Israelis are angels or sinless people. I'll never deny that. But
Okay.
what I am saying though is that the Israelis, by and large, they built communities in those areas, and the Palestinians were launching rockets into their communities. So there has to be a way. I mean, go to Israel. And you'll see there. It'll change your life. You'll see how the people there live. When my father um, was living in the West Bank at that time in the 70s, he asked himself. He said, how come Palestinians can go into Israel in peace and nothing will happen to them, but yet when an Israeli comes into the West Bank, there's a good chance of him being mutilated. There's a good chance of him being lynched, being ripped to pieces, and killed in brutal ways. Why is that? You know, but now Israel has changed, and now Israel has created higher security, tighter security regimens that they have adopted. But they didn't have these types of security regimens like that they do now when my father was living there. So, Israel has simply become much more strict because they want to, basically protect their own lives.
Okay. What what does your father, with his inside view, what does he think is coming here? Now, the Masons, Albert Pike, Civil War general that wrote Morals and Dogma, basically the Masonic Bible, the one that tells us that they worship Lucifer as the god of this world. Uh,
Hmm.
he predicted three world wars. Two of them have already happened, and the third was predicted to be with the Muslims.
Okay.
Uh, how does that fit in? Do you see that world war coming about? Is this a Masonic plot other than a Jewish plot, or were the Masons, are the Masons controlled by the Jews? There's been some research by Jewish writers that say that Jews do worship Lucifer. So
I don't know. I've never read the Messianic doctrine. I'm not a Mason. My great grandfather was actually a Mason. He was I think he was like a 35th degree Mason. He was really high up there. As a matter of fact, I still have his fez hat. And I kind of I enjoy looking at it from time to time. Because I come from a Scottish background, so Scotland is considered the home country of the Masons. But I've never read the Messianic doctrine. But if they said that there was going to be World War III with Muslims, there's probably a lot of truth to that. I do believe that World War III will be against the Islamic world.
All right, now again, the topic of our conversation was is Europe waking up to the Muslim threat? What's going on there? And give me your input and tell me a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your website here. The TedShoebat.com is your father's site. You have TedShoebat.com. What are you doing out on your own at 20 years old? How closely do you work with your father? And what direction are you going in? What do you want to accomplish?
Well, I do other things as far as career-wise, but I'm doing this really not as an official career, but as a side thing. But this is probably it's probably the main priority of my life right now is this, because this is really what I want to do. I wrote a book when I was 15 years old. It was called Insane Footsteps. And it was about how all of these isms, Mormonism, Islamicism, even Freemasonry, how they are all really similar in their doctrine. And when I was 17 years old, I began writing again. And this new book called For God or for Tyranny was published when I was 19. And this book is really about how leftism and Islamicism and how all these isms really they're really all really the same, and how the Bible gives us the blueprint for what evil is.
Kind of interesting, isn't it, that the Bible predicts not to take the mark of the beast, but without it you won't be able to buy or sell, and we've been reading that for 2,000 years, and now it's actually happening. I mean, they call it Health Link or Digital Angel or whatever you want to call. It's a chip under your skin that I think that that's the plan for everybody to be linked to the computer by way of their little chip, and then you can just run your hand over the scanner at Walmart and pay for your food. So the Bible, I agree with you that the Bible is predicting the direction we're going in and what's happening now. I believe the Bible says actually the New World Order will exist for a very short time.
Well, the chip, we can talk about the chip if you want. I don't believe it's going to be a microchip. I actually think the mark of the beast is, the symbol that Muslims wear around their head. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. They actually have the same thing wrapped around their right arm. You can see the same, this is actually going on in Turkey right now. And the Bible says that this mark it has a meaning behind it. It has, I don't remember the exact verse. I'm not an expert at this subject, but it says that it has, it's a declaration. That's what it is. It's a declaration of blasphemy. So to say that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his prophet, that's blasphemy right there. That there is no God but Allah. That's blasphemy against Yahweh. So, and I believe that the Islamic symbol really is, I believe that's the mark of the beast.
Well, now there are people that believe the Star of David, the Israeli flag, the Rothschild red shield, is the mark of the beast. That this is the 666 on the barcodes. There is that school of thought.
Well, I wouldn't really agree with that either, because the Bible gives us locations of where the land